One of the great things that I really appreciated, and when we were working to put together this summit, was that it wouldn't be another opioid-only summit. Opioids kill people, but it's 1/3 of the deaths that are happening across this nation. Of it, 120,000 preventable deaths, opioids cause 1/3, or 40,000 out of 120,000. So it's an opioid and mental illness-driven addiction and suicide crisis. And it's beyond, the drugs are even beyond opioids. And so our next speaker is Tommy Farmer, with Special Agent in charge of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. He's going to come up and talk to us about the trends, where we've been, where we're going. Thomas Farmer is a Special Agent in charge of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and the State Director of the Tennessee Dangerous Drugs Task Force. He has over 30 years' experience in law enforcement, 20 of which were in the field of drug enforcement. Farmer has received extensive specialized training and certifications from various accredited federal, state, and local and private training programs such as the DEA, FBI, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and TBI in the areas of advanced investigation, drug enforcement, chemical, pharmaceutical diversion, clandestine laboratories, special weapons, and tactics. He serves as an advisor to the Tennessee Governor's Methamphetamine Drug Task Force and responsible for the Meth-Free Tennessee Act. He is currently the director of the Governor's Task Force on Marijuana Eradication, a board member for the National Methamphetamine and Pharmaceuticals Initiative, as a part of the White House Office of Drug Control Policy, and an advisory board member of the National Alliance of Model State Drug Laws Precursor Tracking Initiative. He's one of the most, if not the most, informed across the board individuals that I know to address our current crises. Tommy?
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take just a few minutes to go through some of the trends. I do want to say, Monty, where are you at, Monty? I do see you. I think you went to church with your mother. I think you did. I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say I do. So I'm going to take just a few minutes and go over some of the trends with you real quick, because that is truly a tough act to follow right there with Monty. Monty's a fantastic speaker, and I do echo the same words that Judge Sloan said. Yes, down in Atlanta, I do believe someone may have been outstaged by Monty. He was a shining star down there. But from a law enforcement, I do want to tell you this. Number one, it takes the leadership. Thank you, President Boyd, for this venue. I have run into a ton of folks already from law enforcement, from mental health and treatment, from health, from the courts. You have to have everybody. If you're going to address an issue or address a problem, you're going to have everybody that's going to have to come together. And that is what is so fantastic about being here and us being a volunteer state, because we are. We jump in there. We don't have a tendency to put our heads in the sands. So forgive me. I may have to turn around and take a quick look at those. If this thing, here we go. How did we get to where we are? You know, I want to say, I'm not going to look at the slides. I want to tell you that we have gotten here. It was the perfect storm is what we've ran into. We can't look too far. We can point fingers and blame a lot of folks, but we also have to look in the mirror at ourselves, because we too could also be some of our worst enemy. We can create a lot of problems for ourselves. But it is a perfect storm, and we are managing to make a lot of difference. But this is just a list of some of the things that did lead us possibly to where we are. I'm not going to play the video. I was going to play that. That may be a typical. Some of the good things that are coming from it. This is just one of the prime example of how we're reducing some of the numbers. I would tell you, we were looking at the numbers yesterday, partnering with TDAC and mental health and substance abuse and all of our sheriffs and chiefs across the state. We service about 267 permanent pill take-back containers. Guys, you see this number down here? That's since April of 2016. The public has had the opportunity to surrender, drop off at police departments and sheriff's office. We have collected 109 tons of pharmaceuticals and transported those and had them properly disposed of. That's 109 tons that we were able to get out of medicine cabinets and get them out of the potential for somebody to divert those into the streets and us have to deal with something else. We've got enough issues to deal with aside from that. If you break that down, yes, I like to toy with numbers once in a while. It gets a little bit monotonous, but that would be about 2 ounces for every citizen in the state of Tennessee, or about 56,669 milligrams if we want to break that into pill forms. That's a lot of pills, is all I've got to say about that. And that's what it looks like from across the state. We have a very comprehensive program, and every county is covered. So I think that's probably something, one of the few in the country. As we transition, I think this is a tough area for some to understand. We are going to have a transition as we make progress. And our state has made a lot of progress with implementation of the Controlled Substance Monitoring Database, with peer-to-peer reviews, with education, traveling across. I'm looking down here at my travel partners, Dr. Lloyd and Dr. Mutter, traveling across the state, teaching, educating others about what's going on. It's made a tremendous progress. So we are reducing and implementing controls to reduce the amount of pharmaceuticals that are being diverted. That's having a positive impact. So with that, we are increasing the availability and encouraging the availability and expansion of those treatment programs. Working with coalitions, I think they're a huge, vital asset. Karen Pershing, there's no question about it. We want to get upstream on this thing, don't we? We want to prevent it before it even happens. Again, that could be some of our areas where we're our own worst enemy. But we are going to have a natural transition, and unfortunately, the downside to a natural transition is there is a ready market out there, an illegal market that's willing and ready to supply that need, and that is with heroin. It's all about the money, so increasing the profitability of that through cutting agents such as fentanyl, that's exactly what we're going to see. And we're going to have to deal with that, and we are dealing with that. As you see around the nation, some of the numbers that are dropping, maybe it is, there we go. So these are some of the headlines, and even despite, you said, well, Tommy, we are doing all of these things and we are reducing the amount of pharmaceuticals being diverted, why do we continue to see overdoses? Well, we continue to see overdoses, one, because as we spoke of, that's that transition to illicit drugs out there. And now it's not only the illicit opiates, it's also a polydrug culture where we're combining those drugs with other things such as methamphetamine or cocaine and mixing these drugs together. The other, I do want to tell you, the overdoses are there, but the number of saves that we are with all of the training and the Narcan that's going out to the public and going out to those folks, going out to law enforcement and first responders. The number of saves by law enforcement is staggering. That number is really, really growing. We think that that's making a huge difference. So we're saving more folks. And every time we can save those folks, that does give us another opportunity, Monty, to route and change their lives potentially. I promise you, I am law enforcement. I've been doing this about 30 years. You don't have to tell me that law enforcement, that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. You know why you don't have to tell me? Because we coined the phrase. We know that. We know we're not going to arrest our way out of it. But we also recognize that there, unfortunately, are folks that are out there willing, more than willing, to take advantage of people. And you have to have a balance. You have to have the prevention. You have to have the treatment. And you also have to have law enforcement. You have to have each of these to do something. So the numbers continue. Ours are rising up to about 1,837 last year. We are implementing new tools through the courts. We're charging some. And even while we can't arrest our way out of the problem, we also have to make a very clear message that if you are peddling a drug, if you're pushing something out there that not only can, but likely will take the life of another, then you can anticipate us coming after you. We are going to do that because I have been there and I have seen and tried to, what can you do when you're sitting there listening to a mom or a dad telling you, what are you going to do something about it? Why didn't you do something about or save my child? And it's not, guys, it's really not a good feeling at all when you seem absolutely helpless to be able to do some of those things. Those are the numbers that indicated we continue to climb. I'm really optimistic. I hope we're going to plateau right there. I really do. But again, I think some of that's also going to be with what we do together. Looking around the country, we can see our numbers are still up there significantly. What we are closely watching in the law enforcement arena is definitely these increases, but the increases based where fentanyl or heroin is also interjected into the overdose and a part of it. And that 70% number right there, those are disturbing to us, and that's what we are trying to develop rapid responses into those communities, working with health, working with mental health, working with law enforcement. And when we detect a spike in overdoses, then we want to send agents and law enforcement into those communities to identify the source and to stop it before the overdoses continue. And again, when we do equipping law enforcement with a Narcan, has been a tremendous plus. This is just a quick slide about when Narcan is used or it arrives on scene. Now, these are numbers that are reported in from law enforcement to us. Looking at the future, this also tells us that we're doing a pretty good thing, but it also tells us that one of these other areas that we see the next emerging problems coming on, and that big old orange line right there, these are based upon submissions into our crime lab, and that's methamphetamine. We have done a great job in our state by reducing clandestine drug labs. Unfortunately, there is a ready market again. The illicit methamphetamine coming over from Mexico is on the increase. It's at an all-time high. We will set records with incidents related to methamphetamine. It's down. This gray mark right here, cocaine, I want you to take notice of that because the cocaine is slipping back in there. And from what we talk to or what we hear from our counterparts with DEA and others around, we anticipate that cocaine number to continue to rise. Overall opiates, you can see those we're going down. If we see the diversion, I didn't put the pharmaceuticals up there, the hydrocodones, the oxycodones, we can see a much greater decline on those. And we would see a much greater decline. So this total opiates is going to include the heroin and fentanyl. So that's why that is still as high as it is. The other, we are making buprenorphine. It is more available, but there is an unintended consequence. Anytime you're making something more available out there, you also have to take into consideration there is the potential for more diversion. And so I don't want to, I think it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. Buprenorphine also is a very powerful drug in itself. And it is sought after, and it does have a street value and a street market. So we also have to be careful and watch those and make sure that the folks that we want to have access to it gets access to it, but on the same token, keep it off the streets from diversion. Comparison, again, just quickly there. This is that rise in the fentanyl. When we talk about fentanyl, we use it as a general term, but what we're really describing is our analogs of fentanyl. We do see some diversion of pharmaceutical-grade fentanyl. But the majority of the problems that we're seeing out there is not. It's related to those analogs of fentanyl, and we are identifying a number of various analogs each and every week that come into the crime lab. So it's almost a whack-a-mole. As soon as we can identify and respond to, and maybe implement one of the tools through emergency rule on the federal level or on the state level to control that or make that a controlled substance. Unfortunately, there is a way to manipulate the molecule or the atom to change it up so that it's no longer a controlled substance. It comes right back into the United States, and we are back chasing our tails. When you start changing the structures of that, it also affects the potency of it. And so it's the strongest of those, the strongest example of those would be the carfentanil. These can be very, very powerful. And just because we have Narcan or we have other things out there, we're educating, it's no guarantee or no insurance policy that you're going to survive an overdose with something on a substance as strong as the acryl or furanol, fentanyl or carfentanil. It's no guarantee. So we definitely caution, and we're watching these, and unfortunately I think this is just going to be a continued trend where we will continue to see those. We also have to change our mindset when we typically think of illicit drugs, we're measuring in grams. A gram of cocaine or a gram of methamphetamine. Moving to heroin, we're looking at a point. Or if we're talking about prescription drugs, we don't measure them in grams. We measure those in milligrams. And then if we're talking about something as strong as fentanyl with that type of potency, we are more likely to use something in the form of milligrams or micrograms. So reminding ourselves, taking a trip back since we are at school, how many grams are in a kilogram? 1,000 grams to a kilogram, right? Okay, so how many milligrams are in a gram? 1,000. How many milligrams are in a kilogram? 1,000,000 of those. So what I'm saying that is if you attach a dollar figure to it, one, if we were saying if I could sell a gram of cocaine for $100, maximize my profit, $100, my potential at a kilogram would be about $100,000. If I, which I'm probably going to cut it or step on it and double it, and if I do that, I may maximize my profit up to $200,000. So that's out of an illicit substance that you can make a lot of money on. Well, what about a pharmaceutical? Can you make a lot of money? Remember, we're converting, we're not counting in grams, we're counting in milligrams. So let's convert that. Can I get a hold of how many milligrams would it take me to do the same? So at $1, we can roughly say there's a street value to pharmaceuticals, oxycodone, hydrocodone, oxymorphone, hydromorphone. So on average, it's about $1 a milligram. Unless it's an Opana or something of that nature, it might be $4 to $7 a milligram. So you do the quick math on that. If it's $1 a milligram, and I can get 1,000,000 milligrams in a kilogram, how much money can I make if I get that? That's $1 million. What if it was Opana? Conservatively speaking, $3 to $4 million off of a kilogram of Opana. Now, break that back. Let's look at micrograms. The optimum dose of fentanyl is about 125 micrograms. What is that? Well, you can see, they tell me, I don't know this, I've never weighed it out, but they tell me that the weight of an average grain of salt or sugar is about 60 micrograms. So that's 2 or 3 grains of salt or sugar, which would be at the optimum dose. The problem with fentanyl is where you're reaching about the time you're getting to an optimum dose is also the time that you're what? You're going into an overdose. That's why that was such a good high, is because you were actually dancing on the verge of death. That's why it is. So they're so close. There's no way through crude manufacturing methods that we see here across the states. We are seeing processes and pill mills popping up all over the place. There's no way to accurately dispense this, dose this. There's no quality control. Unfortunately, there's none of that. And then I'll give you a prime example. This was a case that was here out of Nashville earlier last year. This young lady was flying in from Arizona. She had a kilogram of what was suspected to be cocaine in her luggage coming through the airport. She was intercepted, arrested for possession of a kilo of cocaine, charged with it. It was sent to the crime lab, and a few months later, the crime lab calls law enforcement and says, oh, by the way, that's not cocaine you guys have. That's a kilogram of fentanyl that was on the plane. That's about 1 million lethal dosages that young lady had. Guys, a kilo is nothing. We have had seizures on the interstates and in residents across the state that have topped 50 kilograms, as much as 50 kilograms. So we're talking about not only the physical characteristics of something that can be inhaled or that poses significant harm to the public, to law enforcement, first responders, that it can be held or inhaled, or it is transdermal. So there's a lot of issues that go along, and this is also a significant threat for weapons of mass destruction. Imagine 10 kilograms, or just with this one, we had a kilogram flying over the friendly skies. Number one, I don't know that anybody in the plane would have survived, but you would have had a significant threat elsewhere. So there are a lot of challenges, and these are just some of the operations that we've seized across the state, pill milling operations. I'm going to end with this one. Looking down the road, and I was talking about some of the mental health issues, Judge, and I did not get my slides back in there on the mental health. But what's reported to law enforcement right now, and we're working on getting data both from EMS, from health, and law enforcement. Right now, I can tell you what's accessible to me. Processing overdoses that are reported that law enforcement respond to. They average about 8 a day, or about 240 a month. We're up to close to 1,800 so far at about midpoint this year on overdoses. Not all of those are fatal. Of those, about 668 of those were law enforcement responded. There was Narcan deployed, and the patient was stabilized, and there's a higher potential, about a 32%, much higher percentage of those that are going to result in a save. Of those, Judge, I was looking at the suicide numbers, about 23 a month. Of those 240, we're getting on average about 23 a month is going to be a suicide attempt. And the drug of choice that's most common in that suicide attempt is going to be an opiate, a heroin-based suicide. And if we see anything now with a heroin or any white powder from cocaine to methamphetamine, it's likely going to have something, it's going to have some form of fentanyl. Just be careful. I mean, we're laying the foundation. We know mental health's a crisis that law enforcement's already dealing with across the state now, or all of us are dealing with. And there are things that are going on across the country that could have a significant impact. We don't know anything. The marketing of many of these products, we have to be careful with those because they are looking at mental health, maybe the factors. These are just some gummy bears that have come out of children's backpacks out of schools. They contain, I don't think that they were ever designed to be in those arenas. So with that, I will say the methamphetamine and cocaine is on the rise. We're making a lot of progress, but we still have a long way to go. And with that, I will yield the remaining. Thank you, sir.